First of all, let me say that working with your son was a great pleasure. He will be able to succeed in everything he does, and I can attest to that through our sessions. First, let's go over the accommodations and modifications that I implemented during our sessions. First was the Pomodoro technique, where we worked for 25 minutes, followed by a 5-minute break, followed again by another 25 minutes of work. Then I got him to think about problems in a different way, such as having a number line rather than going by saying 12 minus 6 is 6. It's on the number line 12 going backwards by 6 to get 6. Finally, I got rid of all of his distractions, which included his little sister, the TVs, and you two in lesson 5 steps away talking about dinner. Next, let's talk about the assessments. I gave him an average 8th grade assessment for algebra. I performed this 7 times, and over the course of the 7 times, he greatly improved. Next, he had only 5 questions on the assignment, and each question were worth 20 points. On his first test, he scored a 50, on his 7th, 100, which showed that he did greatly improve in his scores over the course of the sessions. Secondly, I could see that his concentration had increased greatly as he stopped wandering around, looking around the room, and actually performed his work. Next, the instructional strategies implemented. We color-coded his materials, we broke up his assignments, I provided him with breaks via the Pomodoro technique, and then finally, I checked on his mood often. As such, Robert showed improvement when using the techniques, as his concentration increased and he stopped talking to his sister or about dinner or about video games or movies that were coming up in the following years. He also started to apply these techniques during the sessions himself, such as setting his own timer for the 25 minutes and setting a 5-minute timer himself, as well as color-coding his materials outside of work, where I could see he color-coded his video games so he could more easily find them when he wants them. On the note of color coding, he went from disorganized to organized almost overnight. In our first session, it took him about 5 minutes to find his math notes. In his next section, after we color-coded all of his materials and gave each section its own tab, such as notes, homework, and etc., it went from 5 minutes to about 5 seconds of finding his work. And as Evan, Sarno, Owens, and Bunford says, results indicate that the rate of organization is significantly improved, at least by parental standards. Next, we broke up assignments and I gave him breaks using the Pomodoro technique as discussed earlier. And I could see that he had a retention time improvement where he was able to better retain the information that I would give to him, as well as discussed before, his improved concentration on the work. And as Araldi, Maltone, and Powers states, children are taught to recognize and record instances of on-task behavior following auditory or visual stimuluses at time intervals. For example, the Pomodoro technique. He was able to understand when the timer went off, he would go to break, and when it went off again, he would go straight back to work. And this all caused a decrease in the concentration of his studies. Increase of concentration. Finally, we monitored his mood. I checked in with him often asking about his day when I first got there, and then asking at every single break. This gave him the impression that I actually cared, and he started to show an improvement in behavior towards school and schoolwork, as well as wanting to perform better in school and showing pride in himself when he did schoolwork well. And as Lowe and Feldman says, behavior management is equivalent or better than medication in showing a reduction of oppositional and defiant behavior, such as not wanting to do his schoolwork or lying about having already done said schoolwork. In continuing on with working with Robert, I will continue using the techniques implemented in our sessions, such as the Pomodoro technique, as well as the strategies of breaking his assignments up and monitoring his mood. I believe he will use the color code strategy on his own, as he has already shown signs that he is. Finally, we will continue to provide assessments and working on any weak points that his assessments show in order to improve his studies and his attitudes towards schoolwork.